Okay, so hi everyone, and welcome to our next panel session. Super excited for anyone who is joining us for this panel discussion. Just to mention who's with us right now, we have Shalvi, Ariana, Kristen, Rebecca, and Sinem. And I'm just going to immediately pass it off to Shalvi for an introduction of our speakers. But also, yeah, just let us know in the chat where you're joining us in from. Welcome, guys.
Hey everyone, I'm Shalvi. I'm very excited to be moderating this session of overachieving, high achieving women that I'm talking to today. I myself am a product designer at Microsoft. My team is quite new. I'm the first designer there, so it's very exciting, very challenging too. But I love my work, and I also love my work that I've been doing with ADPList. I get to talk to really nice young people, passionate people across the world. Maybe sometimes learning from them and sometimes just coaching or mentoring them in different ways that I can. So I'm really excited to be talking to all of you today, and I hope all the audience members, get to learn as much as I do from this session. The speakers can introduce themselves now. We can start with maybe Christine.
Yeah, hi everyone. Super excited to be on this panel today. My name is Christine Yoon. I'm currently a senior design manager at LinkedIn. I've been at the company for about 5.5, almost 6 years now at this point. I started off my journey as a UX designer and basically worked up to where I am at now. And I manage a team of 11 designers. Prior to that, my background was actually in business. So I studied that in my undergrad, and then I worked at Deloitte Consulting for 5 years in their digital practice, getting to do a lot of different things around like technology implementation, web implementation, mobile design, which was what got me interested into design. And then I decided to quit my job, get my master's degree at California College of the Arts, which is where I met Shalvi. So so go CCA. Did a 1-year interaction design program, and then started working at LinkedIn. And now in my free time, I love doing things like this. Spend a lot of time coaching junior designers trying to break into the field, and also mid-level folks who want just general career advice in terms of how to accelerate their career. So happy to be here today to talk about this.
Rebecca, Sinem, anybody.
I can jump in. Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca. I am a content designer at HubSpot. My background is actually in marketing and communications. I worked in nonprofits and in higher education before finally kind of focusing more on UX and the content design side of things. I am originally from the US, but now based in Europe, so I can also kind of speak to that transition of moving to a different country for a job or for different reasons. And also a mentor at ADPList as well. So talking about, making career pivots like I did myself, and also just sort of how to break into tech and these sorts of fields. So happy to be here.
Sinem.
Thank you, Shalvi. Hey, everyone. Great to be here also. My name is Sinem. I'm heading delivery partnerships for EMEA at Uber. I'm at the company for around a year. And previously, I was at Booking.com, leading partnerships for the EMEA region. Equally like Rebecca and Christine, I'm very passionate about mentoring, and I'm also enlisted as a mentor at ADPList. I also mentor some startups as well, which really excites me. Recently, I also got my certification for coaching individuals who would like to grow in their career path. So that's also something that I love doing. I love contributing to people's growth and really seeing them grow. Overall, in terms of my background, I have background in travel and tech for over 15 years. I'm based in Amsterdam, also in Europe, but I'm originally from Istanbul, so definitely quite some transitions happened there, and I'm based here like for more than 10 years. So you can say that I definitely got used to living here. And this is about me. Super excited to your questions and talking to women in tech today.
and Ariana.
Hey everyone, it's really great to be here. I'm Ariana, and I am a UX designer at Edward Jones. I live in New York City, and I have a background in graphic design. I also mentor for ADPList and have had the privilege to do so for a couple of years now, and it's been really great to see the growth and the success stories of those that I get a chance to speak to on a regular basis. I own a digital design consultancy, which I do on my spare time. I also own a diversity and inclusion digital magazine as a side hobby. Some fun facts about me: I speak intermediate Japanese. I love the arts. So I am a published author. I've been featured on places like I Am Zine via Pentagram Design Studio and other really cool places. And I just really love sharing knowledge with other people and receiving knowledge from other people. So I'm hoping we can do some more of that today in our session.
That is a cool idea to add fun facts. I feel like my introduction was the most boring now. But anyway, just jumping straight into the conversation, we have all of these amazing women who have achieved so much in their careers today with us. And so it's a general question that is for all of you to answer. And we can start off with one speaker at a time. It's also appropriate because we have been on ADPList, we have been talking to people and mentoring people across the world. So, what are some of the different ways mentoring can support a woman to grow in tech? So, anybody can jump right in, and we want to hear, views from all of you.
I'm happy to jump in. Yeah, I think mentoring is a topic that's interesting to think about because it doesn't just have to be mentoring like we're doing on ADPList. It can be, maybe a coworker has a question about, about a good way to get a promotion or feedback on a project, or a friend or family member or acquaintance that, is kind of seeking advice about something related to their career or not related to their career. And so I think in a sense, mentoring is really a way you can just look for opportunities to help people, to give advice, to be a sounding board in very informal ways. And I think that as women, we can search for those ways and look for opportunities to kind of give advice and lessons learned from our own experience, especially to people that are maybe earlier career than we are, or have, maybe less life experience, a little younger than we are, something like that.
Yeah, I agree with exactly what Rebecca said. One of my mentors actually taught me that it's important to surround yourself with people who have already achieved exactly what you want to achieve. I believe mentors can be really great living examples of what you want to do in your life. And so, for example, I know if you want to be a homeowner, it's really important to surround yourself with people who've already successfully purchased a home and have gone through the home buying process, because they can be instrumental to demonstrate to you how to go through the process and how it looks like to come out successfully on the other side. And I think it could be that way with your career as well. So always seeking out people who may have similar interests and backgrounds to you, but have already achieved exactly what you want to achieve, so that you can go to them and they can give you wise advice on what step do I take next, or I'm encountering this situation, how do I handle it? And that way they're not guessing. They have actual real live examples that they can give you because they've already gone through it.
Ariana, I love what you're saying about like learning from people's experiences. I really truly think that that's one of the definitions for me for mentoring, and like just reflecting over my career growth. I know that there were times where I really felt like, okay, what is the next best action here? And it is easy sometimes to get stuck in your head in terms of like, oh, what should I decide? Should I maybe take this job or not, right? And I think what's really useful is to really turn to those who you can actually rely on, who have had those experiences, who have gone through maybe similar situations, to actually ask those questions and, of course, make up your own mind. But I think the most important is like you don't need to feel alone in your decision making. I think you can definitely rely on that support. So you also don't need to recreate the wheel, right? Like there have been definitely people who have been in your situation before. So I think that can be a very powerful tool for any kind of situation, like you said, that is important in people's lives, whether career transitions or job changes or important decisions such as like house buying as well.
Yeah, for me, I kind of look at mentoring as almost like a model, right? There's you in the middle, but then mentoring is a way of extending those relationships to help you get to those certain goals that you might need in your life. So if you're in the middle, the next layer might be people who are similar to you. So other women or people in a similar position that you can commiserate with that might be more of your peers. Like these are people that you can talk to about day-to-day things. Then the next layer out would be then mentors of people who you might aspire to be. Like they might be several titles ahead of you or at a company that you want to grow to or something like that. So how do you get that mentorship and like understand what are the steps that you need to do to get to that next level? And then there's a third thing that I kind of look at for myself, which is like, what are the skills that I need that I can't get from those other mentorship circles? And that might be looking at executive coaching or other pathways where you can like upskill yourself in terms of the things that you need to do to succeed in your career. And if you kind of think about it at those three different angles, there's actually a lot of different ways then you can approach from mentorship. You can look at, people who are similar to you so that they can kind of understand that background. So like if you're a woman or a person of color, right, having someone with a similar aspirate or like similarities to you can really help you kind of understand where you're coming from. But it's also important to diversify. So it's also helpful to have male mentors too, because they can give you advice around how you can find allies in people that you need to support you in your career. So if you kind of think about it from that standpoint, that might be able to help you find like ways where mentoring can support you in your particular career.
Yeah, I think love that idea about like dedicating different groups of people for different skills and needs. I think that can be a very strategic decision that I make for my career growth. So diving into another tangent, but similar, is being a woman in tech. Is that different from being a woman in some other industry? And maybe Christine, you can elaborate on if there are differences or if there aren't many.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely differences depending on the industry and even the role that you play within tech, for example, where the gender imbalances may be. So, for example, like at LinkedIn and design, we're pretty even in terms of women and men in leadership, but also in terms of ICs. But if you look at engineering, where you're a woman in tech there, it's definitely heavily skews towards men. So even within tech, your experiences may change depending on which department or function that you're in. And then that obviously amplifies more into other types of industries. So I used to work in consulting, and at the junior levels, there were a lot of women and men. But when you started seeing, as you're getting towards the top at the partners, it was very much heavily skewed towards men because the lifestyle was extremely demanding. You would be traveling on the road every week, right? Like it's really hard to have that balanced time to find that work life balance to dedicate to your family. So I think kind of like looking at it really depends on a lot of the circumstances that you're in, even in tech organizations. Yeah, it depends on the role. So I would say with that, like, as just kind of understanding, like, yes, there may be differences. I think that's where the mentorship that we were all talking about can really help. Like, if you find yourself in a position where you're the only woman on the team, or you're in an industry that's heavily male dominated, relying on mentors and allies outside of your industry can help you provide that need and support to figure out like what you would need in your career.
Yeah. Because you touched upon, how different roles and different industries can be all different experiences. Do you have any personal experience in your past, considering, you also worked at a consulting firm and now you're at LinkedIn, where maybe like you were made to realize more about your gender than any other person just because of a conversation or like a discussion that was happening, and if yes, then how did you really manage that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a little top of mind for me because I just did my annual review, and like one of the points of feedback that I got that kind of made me like pause and think about is like, is this like a gendered role kind of thing? Is that I consider myself like fairly direct, and like I've been able to exhibit my skills to get to the place of where I'm at. But I've gotten feedback before where it's like, oh, like Christine needs to speak up more, or the way that Christine says things, it's not clear enough, so it needs to be even more direct. But sometimes I wonder if that is like based on like how men might be perceived in the way that their communication style is, versus like my style is a lot more like nurturing. I try to be more collaborative versus like more authoritative. So is that what's being perceived as like me not being direct? And I sometimes like kind of question that. So there are instances where I feel like my thoughts might be overshadowed, or like I say something and then a male counterpart says a very similar thing, but just in a different tone. And then people listen to him versus like me. And I'm like, but that was my idea. So sometimes that kind of like makes you pause and think about that and how to overcome it. To be frank, luckily it doesn't happen that much compared to like when I was like in the consulting industry, but it's still something that I think is important to recognize, that like you will still face some level of adversity, no matter what level you're at, even if there is a good gender balance in those roles. And some of the things that I'm thinking about is like, I'm seriously looking into executive coaching and having somebody who I can like bounce some of these ideas off of outside of my organization to see if I can improve myself. So
Yeah, I think just listening to a story of like, I said the same thing, but just in a different tone. I think I was smiling very widely because it has happened with me too, where I literally said the same thing, but it was not really paid attention to. But Seenam, I also want to know from you if you have a personal story, and sorry for mispronouncing your name earlier, about if there are times when you have been in a position, or if you have heard something in a meeting where you probably also felt something similar.
You know what? I was like there listening to Christine and like nodding the whole time. Probably everybody noticed is like I think everybody has like similar stories. Like so do I, and I think I'll add something a bit more general from my observation overall. Is over the past years, I really do notice that women get much more feedback on their stylistic approach than men. And really like this has been coming up with my mentees and also with my coaches quite a lot. You'll be actually surprised, like majority of the women that I've been speaking to really brought up in the same way like that Shalvi, you did, like Christine and I did. And it's interesting to see that this is also causing confidence issues, because I think women generally then tend to not show up like themselves when they also hear this kind of feedback as well. So it is a tricky subject, really. Like I think everybody would agree with that. What I do recommend, or when I do also these coaching sessions, usually I try to encourage my mentees and also coaches to really find what they value and to get really close to themselves, to understand how they want to show up, just to apply authenticity in the way that they show up. And I can understand it can be very challenging when receiving this kind of feedback, but it is I find it super important that staying true to yourself, of course, is the key to motivation, and making that impact also on your team. We all know the importance of authentic leadership and presence as well. So I think those would be some of my key takeaways, like for everyone, including myself as well.
Yeah, all of this is very, very close to what I experience in my daily life as a tech professional too. So, Ariana, you have been a designer for very long, and considering what Christine and Sinem here shared about sometimes you're treated differently just based on the gender that you belong to. How can we, as women, as people of color, or any other adjective that you want to add which is special and unique, how can we design our UX careers in a way that it still holds true to our values?
Yeah, I love this question. Okay, so I think it's important to be extremely intentional with your life and with the decisions and choices that you're making, including and especially in your career. That being said, you don't have to necessarily be trapped in a career or in a lifestyle or in a pattern that doesn't align with you. And so, the really great thing about UX is that UX is a big umbrella. And so when we talk about UX, we're not just talking about UX design, we're talking about research, we're talking about UX strategy, we're talking about UX engineering. There's so many different roles that exist within the UX umbrella. So my first tip would be to research the different types of UX careers that are available and that are out there, and then decide which path that you want to go down based on what best aligns with you, based on what inspires you and what excites you in your life. And then once you do that, once you decide, okay, like I know I want to go down this UX career path, I think it's best to study the footsteps of those who have similar backgrounds to you, who have successfully made that pivot in their career, and then cultivated a career in the space that you wanted to, that you want to, and then go ahead and cultivate your space in the same way. Now, obviously, there's going to be differences because nobody lives exactly the same life. So you might have to do some adaptations based on how this person did this. Maybe you have to do something differently. But I think using someone as a model based on, okay, this person is a designer at this company that I really want to work for in the next 5 years. Let me go on LinkedIn and see their career trajectory. Where did they go from? They started here and went to here, went to there. And that's when networking comes in, where you can actually reach out and say, hey, like, I am so fascinated by your career trajectory. Can you please take some time and like maybe speak to me about how do you get where you got? And then I think that that kind of leads back into getting a mentor or someone that, like Christine said, that you can bounce ideas off of. That way you're not making large career decisions without getting wise feedback from people who, learn to care about you because they got to know you and who are already in your career path. And they can tell you, like, don't do this, or, when I did this step, this is what happened. So you may want to look out for these things. But intentionality is so important. And you can make some really, really great life decisions when you're extremely intentional, by looking at the very next step that you want to take.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. But just to go deeper into this same question and maybe ask some more follow-up questions on that, there are times when you cannot find a mentor or a coach who has had a similar trajectory or a trajectory that you want to take, or maybe I'm not even sure if I want to, what kind of trajectory I want to take. I don't know what my next step is. I'm confused. So I probably start talking to people from people having all sorts of journeys just because I want to figure out in my mind, oh, maybe this can be my journey. So in times like that, when you don't have like a constant mentor or coach to tell you what are the next steps or what are the right things to do, how do you handle some of the different seasons of your career? And what I mean by seasons is like promotion or like job switch, maybe burnout because it's so common nowadays, the entry level jobs, becoming part of leadership in your role, getting that executive, input, and all of this when you don't really have a support network of mentors or coaches.
Yeah, so I think that's a really great question. So I am a big believer in servant leadership, and I've actually been practicing it for the last year and a half. Now, when I say servant leadership, that means like we are all leaders at every single stage in our career, whether you are at the very, very bottom or whether you're at the CEO, there is some form of servant leadership that you can perform. And the reason why I think that this is helpful is because if you're always thinking about how can I get to the next level while pulling others up with me, you're now creating a growth trajectory, a growth mindset inside of you that says, I am not stuck here. There's more for me. And there are other people who are going to be inspired by the next step that I'm about to take. And so when you're always keeping your vision wide, your life open, then you kind of open it up to new experiences, new ideas. And so, for example, let's talk about something like really, really real, like burnout, which does happen. That is a really great opportunity to actually practice, like, how can I reset while also setting an example to others around me that taking temporary breaks can actually be really advantageous to your career. Or if you're on the other side of the fence and maybe you just got promoted, that's a really, really great opportunity. Instead of focusing inwardly, right, and like keeping all of like the thoughts to like yourself and your own growth, you can focus that new energy, that exciting energy outward and say like, what are some really great new ways that I can use this new level of access to reach out and serve more people more effectively. So when you kind of switch your mind in that way and you look out for other people, you begin a cyclical pattern in your life that others will begin to look out for you. And then once you get to that point, burnout will happen, right? But you also will get another promotion. And everything in between, you're building a community so that no matter what happens, you're still growing and you're still leaning on the other people that you've cultivated to be a part of your community. So it becomes a more holistic process of your entire growth trajectory.
Yeah, I think that was it was a very cool perspective on that. So let's hear of another perspective. Rebecca, if you have any personal stories of, how did you manage these seasons in your growth when you didn't really have like a mentor coaching you, or like somebody, who has had a similar journey much before you, telling you what to do next.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you did to make sure that the seasons kept transitioning smoothly?
Yeah, that's a great question. And first of all, I want to name that sometimes the seasons won't transition smoothly, and that's something that's like to be expected, and it doesn't mean anything about your sort of skills or value as a person or as an employee. It's just, it could be the economy, it could be just a life season that's happening for you. Yeah, but I would say me personally, what I found really valuable is sort of getting really clear on what my priorities were as far as values and goals. Sometimes we think we want something, but it's because other people around us want it. You can even Google online, you can do values exercises, or sort of like write down all of the things that are important to you in a job and sort of rank them. There's a lot of activities that you can just Google, like I said, to sort of get some clarity around what's important to you for yourself. So you don't have to necessarily ask someone outside of you, but these are things that can sort of help guide your decision making when the time comes for applying to a job, or how to deal with burnout or this or that. Since you're clear on what's most important to you, you can make decisions on that. And I would say you can also turn to people that maybe haven't gone through that exact experience. I have a good friend who's a tax accountant, which is something I would never want to do professionally in my life. But she was somebody I respect as a person, that I feel makes good decisions. And so when I came across a difficult decision myself with work or something related to that, she was a sounding board for me. And if you can find somebody that you sort of get the sense that they're making good decisions in their lives, or you respect some aspect of the way that they're sort of guiding their own career, it doesn't have to be someone that's a mirror image of what you want to do, but somebody that you relate, or that you want to sort of take some of their knowledge, and maybe that will help to guide you too. So yeah, it doesn't have to be any sort of like formal mentor or somebody that's even in your field necessarily.
Yeah. Just reiterating maybe the question of alliances, or like forming alliances in your industry or in your team, apart from, getting mentors or coaches along the journey. Are there any other type of alliances that come to your mind, which maybe you formed or you wish to form with your team members, or with the members from other team, which can help you thrive in tech specifically? And Rebecca, maybe you can continue speaking on that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because for me personally, I found what's been the most valuable is the relationships that I've formed with different people along the way. And I think it's Malcolm Gladwell, the author, talks about the power of loose ties. And that people that maybe you've spoken to once or twice, or maybe even are in the same Slack group as you, maybe a local UX Slack group, or maybe you've gone to a couple meetups and seen these people there. Those can sometimes be the people that maybe refer you to a new job, or just in a casual conversation mention an idea about a career path that you've never thought of, that you decide to look into a bit more. And so I think it's really having a sense of curiosity is like the biggest thing, because curiosity is what's going to facilitate those conversations. It can be somebody that you have no intention of ever talking to again, but you want to hear a little about their life, so you ask. These are the places where you're going to get these little bits of knowledge that are going to help you to understand your path, and to understand what you might want to do next. So I think personally, I've set up Zoom conversations with people that just lived in the same city as me, but were on completely different teams in my company, just because I thought, maybe we can get coffee, and maybe that person will just have a conversation. Maybe they'll be my friend. Maybe they'll just whatever. You don't have to have an end goal all the time with these conversations. And I think in a sense, they come across as more authentic when it's just really you're wanting to learn and create these conversations with people, and that's really where you're learning, whether they're coworkers or people you're meeting outside of work.
Yeah, I love Slack communities personally. I feel like I've found so many designers who have probably been the founding designers, or like designers at startups, because that's such a like niche group to have. Not everybody works at startups. Everybody has like different scale. They're working at different scaled industries, and so it's really nice to have that go-to group to just speak about the daily challenges. So the last question for this session, and it's going to be a long one, can be broken down into multiple steps to answer, and everybody is welcome to join in to share their perspectives. Um, People have different ways of defining success, or what success means to them, or what are the tips to attain and maintain success. As a woman in tech, how do you maintain success in a way that you create healthy balances between your career and your personal life? Maybe you can touch more upon not achieving success but maintaining success, because personally I feel like maintaining it is a lot more difficult than achieving it. And Sinam, Ariana, Rebecca, Christine, all of you, closing remarks on these questions, and we can take Q&A right after.
Thank you, Shalvi. Happy to start and jump in. What a great question to end the panel. I'll try to give my few cents. I'll start with maintaining success. I think that's similar to actually managing shifting seasons is also a challenging one. The reasons I think really the key to maintaining the success for me is keep on learning and challenging yourself is really the key here. I have a personal saying that if you see me doing something in the same way year after year, I think please somebody say something about it. I don't think that I'm being successful anymore. I do believe in the in challenging yourself and growing your boundaries, going out of your comfort zone. And I think nowadays we are very lucky that we have a lot of tools at our disposal that we are able to do those things. I think this platform is one of them, right? Like ADPList, we all mentioned that we are actually mentoring, but we can also equally get mentored. You can get peer feedback from people that you work with. You can have 360s running at the company, but you can also do this yourself. There are lots of other tools at your disposal, such as learning tools nowadays over LinkedIn or over Coursera, etc. Like many learning modules that you can sign up to, and even more, I think in a lot of the questions that came up, making use of your network, right? I think Rebecca also recently gave a good example as well, like somebody really out of her industry, but really believing in their skill set, right? Reaching out and soundboarding on certain things. So these are just a few, but I think it's important to know what works for you, what tools you respond well to. And if you also heard from others, maybe just a simple question of what worked for you in terms of learning something? What is the last assignment that you actually stretch yourself on? Maybe some other projects that I can sign up with. The questions don't end. I leave you with some of the thoughts, in filling in the blanks yourselves. And then, Shelby, you touched upon actually while maintaining success, how do you balance it out, right? There, I'll talk about what works for me. I think for everyone, it can work differently. For me, coaching really helped tremendously in this area. While I talked during my intro that I became a coach recently, and as a best practice, I actually work with a coach buddy. We push each other to actually get better at our coaching. And I did all these exercises about values, which got me closer to myself and understand what I actually enjoy while I'm working and going through, career growth and also getting most out of private life as well. With my career, I think this is really staying focused on impact and relationship building, really being closely working with coworkers and creating that impact. Relationships are very important for me. Also, it came up in my personal life that really making time for loved ones and also myself, which can be a challenge. I also saw in the Q&A that there were some questions on working parents. I think basically, in a nutshell, I would say the more that you get closer to yourself and ask those questions and do the work, do the hard work, pretty sure that it will, in the long run, be very, very valuable for you in also creating that balance for yourself.
Thank you, Seenam. And unfortunately, we just have 1 minute remaining for this session before the session ends. So we will not be able to take all the questions, even though I love all of them. So let's just get as many as possible answered right away. So how do you suggest reaching out to people on LinkedIn to expand your network and get mentored? Anybody can answer this.
Be very specific. Say exactly how much time you want, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Say exactly why and be very specific about what you want to talk about. That way you'll be more likely to get a response.
The other thing I would add to it is don't go chase after the job or the role. People want to be connected because they're a person. So really anchor on something that you have in common with them. Maybe you went to the same school, maybe you're from the same country, and start with that, because that's much easier to get a conversation going than just saying that you want to apply for a role at a particular company.
I
Elsa,
agree.
can we take
Oh.
one more question? Oh, okay. So we're out of time, unfortunately. But thank you, everyone, for joining in and listening to what everybody had to say. I enjoyed myself thoroughly. The questions that everyone had, we are free to, connect on LinkedIn. We can probably personally answer some of these questions. Our social handles are in the chat. Please feel free to ping us. We would love to chat with you and know more about your journeys, probably share ours. Thank you, all the panelists, for joining and answering the questions so patiently and in so much detail. And Elsa, is there anything else that we can do? Cool. Okay, see you, everyone. Thank you again.